Welcome, welcome, welcome to this edition of Sagionic 1027. We are so glad that you decided to join us today. And with us, we have another one of those guests. Today, my guest is LisaBeth Thomas, and she is out of deep down in the heart of Texas, neck of the woods. And I am thrilled for our viewers to get to know her today. I became aware of her through a project that we will discuss later on in this interview. But LisaBeth is a woman who has chosen that no matter the circumstances, she is going to cling to God. And in her clinging to God, no matter the discomfort, it is through that passions were developed in her to help others as well. So LisaBeth, welcome to our program today. We are so glad that you decided to join us.
Well, thank you. I'm honored to be here. I'm really excited to talk with you.
Yeah, this is going to be great. And so I like to let people know that because the broadcast is all about you, you get to decide where in your life's journey would you like to drop viewers. You get to decide, do you want to go down an inch? Do you want to go down 5 feet? Right? You get to decide. So when you were thinking about this interview and you looked over the questions that were presented to you, you get to choose. And whatever you choose, it's the right answer because it's about you.
Awesome. Well, are we going to get going? Are we digging in? Is that what you're saying?
Dig in. Yep. You get to just land us wherever you want to.
Well, I thought it was interesting that you said that no matter what I was going through, I clung to God. Well, there was a point in my journey that I was really mad at him, and so that's where I'll start.
Okay.
I had a video production company, which turned into an advertising agency in Austin. And I think if you did the book of lists, if we would have put our names in there, we would have been about 13th. And so we had all the iconic Austin businesses. It was just a lot of fun. We worked red carpets. We worked movies with Robert Rodriguez. So it was just awesome. And I was in business with my husband at the time. And I joke about I wanted to marry so badly. I married so badly. And I knew that I shouldn't get married to this guy, but I wanted to get married so badly. I wanted to have a father for my kids. I've been divorced. And so it was not a great decision because I saw all the signs going in, but like a lot of women, I can change him. It'll be better. He's just stressed, whatever. So, during the marriage, it became very, very passive aggressive, very emotionally, and some physical abuse. And it just got to the point where, and not to the children, the emotional, yes, but to me, a lot, and to things that he was saying to clients and things that he was saying to our staff. So I got to the point where I knew I had to get out of that. I just couldn't do it any longer. So when I finally made the decision to leave, and I kept the agency, he was leaving. We were dealing with, he had not filed 3 years of our personal taxes from like 9-10 years prior. And he used to be a bank president. And yeah, I saw your eyes. Yeah.
That's like specialton.
And anybody out there that knows it's interest and penalty daily. And he pleaded hardship. And because I kept the agency, the IRS was like, okay, well, the money's over there. And even though it wasn't my money, it was money for the media. It was money for whatever we were doing with clients. So finally, to the point, in May of 2017, the house of cards finally fell. Like I just couldn't keep it together. I'd lost my confidence. I lost my self-esteem. I had nothing. I was a shadow of myself. And people kept saying, well, you could go and get new business. No, I couldn't. I didn't have it in me. And I knew the money would be taken. So I just couldn't do it. Now, my inner circle knew I was going through a rough time, and my family knew, but they didn't know how bad. So in a 3.5 month period, starting May through August 15th, I lost my business. I had to sell my house to pay off the IRS, and my mom died.
Oh,
That was like, you must think I'm really tough, God, because so I was homeless for about 6 months. Now, I wasn't living under a bridge, but I was couch surfing. I was staying at people's places. Luckily, all my kids were grown, in college, married. But they were, dealing with the loss of their home. So where I was not clinging to God was I would lay in bed with a really cheap bottle of wine, not mid-shelf. I'm talking bottom shelf at HEB, like the $6 bottle, because I had no money, and so and I apologize, and I always say, but I was like, you son of a, I was so mad at God, and I was shaking my fist at him. I was so mad because I was sitting there saying, you perform miracles all the time. Yeah. Really? You're going to make me walk through this? You could go like this, God, and this would all be over. So I was really mad. And then I remember one night lying there, whatever the right grammar is, and thinking, why can't it be like Job? Why can't I have that faith like Job, right? And I was thinking Sunday school Job, the story we read in Sunday school, which viewers or listeners, if you read Job, there's a different part of the story. Yeah. So I went and got my Bible and I read Job, and I went, oh, Job was pretty pissed off. Job was just didn't go, yay, I lost everything. Job was angry and hurt. And so I realized God wasn't going to be mad at me for being mad at him. He knew, he was like, you're a human being. Okay. You can get through this. So the beauty of it was again, devastated. There was no self-esteem, no self-worth, and I remember my girlfriend, Melinda Garvey, or maybe this was before it, I hadn't told anybody really what's going on, and I'm the founding president of Texas Women in Business. And so, founding president of Texas Women in Business, and they asked me to speak, and there was like 200 women, and it was some set presentation. Now they have me on a pedestal, and I'm not, but I do all these movie things, and I do all these things, and I have a 7-figure ad agency, and I had nothing. I was homeless, and I got up there, and I had my mask on. Everything was okay. I'm gonna be okay, and I got up on stage to introduce somebody. I don't even remember what I was supposed to do. And I looked out at all the faces, and I was like, oh. And I said, I have something to tell you. And for the first time, I told 200 women really what was going on in my life. And I thought, okay, I wonder what the judgment's going to be. And when I finished telling it, nobody applauded, nobody cried, everybody sat there, and I went, oh, okay, there's my judgment. And then somebody started clapping, and they all stood up and applauded and gave me a standing ovation. But here's the beauty of it, is that when I came off the stage, there was a line of women saying, oh my God, thank you for sharing your story. I had no idea. And guess what? I've got to file bankruptcy, or I need to leave my husband, or I'm alcoholic and I can't tell anybody, but they said, because you shared and you are walking through this, I can walk through it. And that was my first glimmer of, we need to share our stories, not to keep us stuck, not to keep us victims and stuck, but to say, you can do this. If I can do it, you can do it, and give hope. And that you're not alone, because I don't care who you meet, they got a story.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So I've got a question for you that I would like you to present to viewers, and that is that tell them the progressing process of once you've been subjected to something. I got to lay it out, okay? Once you've been subjected to something like divorce, right? Tell them the process of, at first you are in a position where you think you have to tell everybody what's going on, but then how eventually it's every now and then. And you don't have to throw everything out there all the time. Yes, in that moment, that is what Father directed you to do, to share it all, right? But also through that progression process, the freedom that you yourself have, that it is none to everybody you meet, right? Share with viewers how you evolved from that process and progressed forward.
I know exactly. There was a point in time, once I shared the story, then I started sharing it with the grocery clerk. I wanted everybody to feel sorry for me, right? It's like, don't I have justification for you to feel sorry for me and for me to be miserable, right? We tell people our story because we want people to feel, and I, like I said, the more I kept telling my story, I remember thinking, I'm going to be stuck in the story because I'm living the story over and over again. And so I made a conscious decision that I wasn't going to tell my story anymore. If I was telling my story, it was going to tell it not to stay stuck, but to walk through it. The biggest aha I got is when I stopped saying, he did this, they did this, she did this. Well, there was no she's, but they, he, whatever it was, because it kept the blame out there and the accountability out there. So the minute I said, what's my accountability in this? And my accountability is I never checked on the numbers. I didn't stand up for myself. I didn't stand up for my children. I mean, I started then listing my responsibility and accountability. And that's when I was able to become the victor because I owned it then. Okay. And it was clearly, I knew the distinction because then it was my power. I was giving my power to everybody else. He did this, they did that. But it was when I owned the power, I took my power back. And that made all the difference for me. And the other thing that I was so shocked of how I was talking to myself. And you're an idiot. You're so stupid. Why were you, and I would beat myself up. And I know a lot of people do. I'm not unique. We'll say things to ourselves that I wouldn't say to my dogs, but we say to ourselves. So one day, I don't know what happened. I heard whatever I was saying to myself, and I was, oh my gosh, why are you saying that? And then I started really paying attention and catching myself, and I was focused on anytime I said something negative to myself, I turned my inner critic into an inner cheerleader. I would quickly go, no, and I would say something positive, something good. And then it got to the point, and that was a couple of years ago, and I can honestly say, and I'm an exaggerator, but I'm not exaggerating, that I don't remember the last time I said something negative to myself. Because I was so focused on, if I'm not my inner cheerleader, nobody else is going to be. And that was a huge. So I think it's owning your story and taking ownership. The other side of this that I know you're going to appreciate this. So when my friend Melinda Garvey invited me to go to the beach, and it was during all of this time, to her home in Galveston, I was like, I can't go. I don't have any money. I don't even have gas money. What are you talking about? She said, no, I'll drive. We'll just eat what's in the refrigerator. We'll walk the beach. We don't have to do anything. Just come and get away. So I went, and Saturday night, I told her, I'm going to wake up really early Sunday morning and go for a walk on the beach. So I have time by the ocean, talk to God, just have some time. So I got up, I took my flip-flops off, put my feet in the sand, put my feet in the water, and just kind of escaped for a minute. And then dawned on me, what if there's a wallet that washed up on the beach? Or what if there's a ring, right? What if there's a ring? What if somebody lost a money clip? I was broke.
Yeah.
So I was like, so I started walking down the beach again. Come on, God. Just like this, there could be a wallet, there could be money, there could be a ring, there could be a diamond bracelet. And I was looking under seaweed, I was looking in the water, I was looking under shells, and I kept saying, come on, God. And finally, I said out loud, God, show me the treasure on the beach. And as clear as day, and it was not my voice, and I'll never forget it, and I know the voice I know it. He said, oh, LisaBeth, you are the treasure on the beach.
Oh,
as clear as day. Because I would have never have said that to myself. And I can still hear his voice.
Oh, God.
I can still hear it. And I literally went, wait, what? And I looked around because I thought, who said that? And I went back and I told Melinda, and it really took me a little while because I was in such a deep, dark place to get what he meant. And we're all the treasure on the beach. We just have life bury us in the sand, or we're covered in seaweed, or whatever it is, but we have the jewels, the gems, the gold within us. He put them there. He put them there. And we've let life pile them on. And a lot of times it's not our fault, but again, it's life. And so these last couple of years, I've really tapped in, and on my phone, my calendar, every morning, the first thing on my phone on my day is, you are the treasure on the beach. So I remember every day, that's what God thinks of us.
That's so beautiful, LisaBeth. And one thing, and I'm glad you included it right there in the last few sentences, it's not our fault, okay? And I think that's important, because how does one know what you don't know? How do you know what you've never been taught, right? So even though you went through the transition of pointing the finger, right? And then you decided to, Sister Sean calls it psychoanalyzing yourself, right? So that you could figure, okay, what's the why? What's going on inside of my mind? Nope, this cheerleader better rise up, because we need to take care of this. We need to get the mind back where it needs to be, right? But you don't know what you don't know, right? So to look back at something in the past, right? So can you share with viewers how you begin to administer grace to yourself for what you didn't know?
I honestly think it was that. I said to myself many, many times, I did the best I could. I didn't know what I didn't know. And I had to stop beating myself up for that. I've got a course that I've created. I went through a program called Discovery Programs, and out of that, I created a course called Outwitting Fear. And I discovered my two core fears are not being good enough and not being worthy. And so I totally once I knew what those were, then I started realizing how that fear ran my life. And whether it came, and I don't know where it came from, and I don't want to spend the time worrying about it. Was it from my parents? Was it from teacher? Was it from, who cares?
Yeah.
But what happens, and this is a really cool, Sister Sean, is that it's really cool, is that it only takes your brain 3 to 5 seconds. So when you're being triggered and you're really upset, or something's got you like, oof, that's when we react and we say things or do things we shouldn't do or say. But it only takes 3 to 5 seconds to break that, and to interrupt that trigger, that interruption. And so literally what I do when I'm triggered, for 3 to 5 seconds, I go, is this my fear of not being good enough or not worthy? Or am I just really mad at something you said? What is it? Right?
Yeah,
but I think it through first. And
that's right.
So it's really, because we can't heal what we don't acknowledge. And I think that's the thing, is just really looking at that and knowing God's got us. It's just, again, it's the layers. And again, some people, and I was abused, absolutely. And there's some people that their life has been horrible. So I don't want to discount that.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
I do not want to discount that.
Yeah. Yeah. So share with viewers, you said you created a course, right? So you
Yeah.
stepped out of media into healing, right? Healing avenues, right? So share
Right.
with, not necessarily stepped all the way out, but share with viewers how you began to explore your options. Because before, you and your husband were under one umbrella, right? The divorce took place, you lost your house, now you're on the beach, and God said, there she is, there's my girl, right?
There's
There
my
she is,
girl.
right there, right? So share with viewers how you picked up the pieces to create purpose in your life. But we're not going to get to that till the very end. But your life, we're going to talk about now.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. I still do advertising. I just don't have the agency. So I still do media buying and creative and that type of things for clients. But Texas Women in Business, when it was myself and 4 other friends that started that 15 years ago. Next year will be 15 years. That was really my first step into serving others, of helping women grow their business, or giving them support, or being a shoulder to cry on, whatever, because there's a lot of pressure on us as we're growing a business and a family and trying to balance all that. So that was my first step into it. And then with the course, with discovery programs, I had the pleasure of going through that. And I've been a facilitator now for coming on 11 years. But again, my heart is about serving. My heart is about making a difference, because we're not alone, and walking through that. And one of the biggest things I'm most proud of is an initiative for Texas Women in Business. I went to the governor's office for our 10-year anniversary. They asked if I'd be president again and we have chapters around the state, but they asked if I'd be president for our 10 years. So I went to the governor's office here in Texas, in Austin, and said, what can we do that'll make an impact? We're Texas Women in Business. And that's when I found out Texas was #1 in human trafficking. And I was like, how is that possible? I used to work at the ABC station in town. Why aren't we doing something about that? Well, long story really short is that when that was September of 2019, and when the governor gave us the capital to launch a campaign to bring people aware of that we were #1, that was right when COVID hit. And so we couldn't do anything for a couple of years. Coming out of COVID, online exploitation of our children and sextortion of our children is up almost 600%, because predators go where the kids are. So we changed our focus. And so I'm extremely proud of that, is that the goal is to bring awareness and tools to parents and kids so they can protect themselves and protect their children online. So somebody said to me, a woman that I was doing a podcast with, she said, so in other words, you've taken your advertising and marketing where you helped clients and served clients. She goes, now you're serving humanity. And I loved that, because I hadn't put that together, that now I'm using my gifts, my treasures to help women and to help children and to help parents. And I've never been happier. It's awesome. Yeah.
So this didn't happen in you, LisaBeth, overnight. Okay, this didn't happen to you in 10 years or 20 years. Okay, you and I are at least 45. Okay, we're just
thank you for that. I got 20 years on you there, but yeah, thank you. Okay. You're now my favorite. You're my favorite human being right now.
Well, I'm 56, so I'm 56, so I wanted to play it safe for us. Okay,
good,
45 was a safe number, right? Okay, but this didn't happen in it didn't happen in your 30s, right? You didn't develop to where you are today. I hate the word mature. I hate that word, right? Because we're all growing. That was mature.
Okay. No, I had to go. Yeah. And I was going, mother, she spelled mother wrong.
Okay, so this didn't happen in your 20s, right? So if you take the LisaBeth today and you look at LisaBeth in her teens, you look at her in her 20s, you look at her in her 30s, you look at her in her 40s, you look at her in her 50s, right? Can you go back and speak to women at these different ages to focus on right then and there? Don't think you need to be a LisaBeth who's 60, right? Focus, you need to stay right there where you are and work on what it is that needs to be done. So go back and speak into those different age groups.
I don't know if I could go back to each one of them because they're kind of a blur at 60s. And yeah, so, but I do think, I love that you're asking that question because we do have to do a journey.
Yeah.
Now, the tools I have today, if I would have had those back then, oh, my life would be so different, as all of our lives would be different. But we have to do our journey because God, there is a purpose that God has us on. Now, we have free choice, and I'm sure he's like, oh, dear LisaBeth, come on, you know. But I made horrible choices at some of the ways, but that's part of it. But because I had this incredible journey, and at one time it was the most horrendous, but it was also the best. If I hadn't gone through that, I wouldn't be who I was today. And I had a friend of mine that said, I will just give you the cash to pay off all that. So you could really, but if he had, I wouldn't have grown. I wouldn't have had this relationship stronger with God. I had to do it. So going back to the teens and 20s, I have a daughter who's 42 and a son and daughter in the early 30s. I think one of the biggest mistakes that we can make as parents is we try to solve our kids' problems. So I want to address it that way. I think let me fix that for you. Let me take care of that for you. Well, if they don't make mistakes as teenagers and young adults, when they make a mistake as an older adult, when it's really imperative that they make wise decisions and we're not there to save them, and they have to learn how to solve and think and pray and whatever it is that they need to do. If we're constantly saving them, we're doing them such a disservice. Such a disservice.
That is such wisdom. That is such wisdom, LisaBeth. And it reminds
Well, my kids tell me to shut up. So, what do you know, Mom?
Hold on. Let's put moms in another category. A prophet is not known in his own household. Okay. Right? So the wisdom insight, because, my oldest is 37. My youngest is 29, right? Yeah, 29. 37 to 29 is the age range of my 6 kids, right? And I would think of this, right? So one of the wisest women I knew was, I classified her as my earth mom, and she recently went to heaven, okay, within this last month. And she said, Sean, she was a mentor to my husband and I raising our 5 kids, right? Which became 6 later on because one adopted us. And she said, Sean, the best advice I could give to you and Steve is your children are going to come to you begging for advice.
Yeah.
Do not give it to them. Direct them back to the Father, because if you give them the advice and it doesn't turn out in their favor, then they will come back to you, right?
Yeah,
and
that's great advice.
Yeah, I even remember early on in parenting, the Lord highlighting the verse, the Lord is near the brokenhearted. So I remember one day, one of my female childs, right, was having a mental breakdown, just buckets of tears. And as she bawled in her room, I sat in my room quietly and I worshiped the Lord. I said, Father, you are near the brokenhearted, which means you are right there with my daughter. Right? Mm-hmm. Now, you don't tell your children that when you're in the midst of parenting them, because they will stab you in the eyes, right? They will stab you in the eyes.
Exactly.
Right? So it's wise that you would say, because think of that, the perfect parent is the Lord God Almighty. And what do you think he thinks of all of
Yeah.
his children on earth? Right?
Right.
So now
But but I do, and so I joke that my kids say
yes,
shut up. They don't.
yes.
But what I do when I'm leading workshops or when I'm doing speaking engagements, I share. I think one of the best things, as bad as it was that what my kids saw me go through, they saw me go through it, and they saw me come out stronger on the other side.
Yes.
And it's never too late. I think the best example we can show our children is that we're always growing. We're always
That's
learning.
right.
We've made mistakes and we're going to make mistakes. But when they see us making this, changing our lives for the better,
Yes.
that also gives them hope. Because again, they're going to come up against some pretty bad stuff now and then. And that is where we can be such a role model
That's
to go
right.
through it, instead of pretending it didn't happen and oh no, we didn't lose everything. No, yes we did.
That's
We
right.
lost, but now we're like my neighbors whose house burned down night before last.
Mm.
They're dealing with all of that. And
Mm.
but I was just over there when the father was saying to the youngest daughter, but we're here. It was just
Yeah.
stuff. We're here,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so it's remembering where we are and the appreciation of what we have
Yeah.
and what the
So
Father has blessed us with.
that's right. So let's say you were teaching your children how to weather through life,
Yeah.
right? To literally
Right.
weather through life, because you know there are in life you will have many trials, right? There are difficulties in life, and one thing I really valued all the way from when we started the interview until now. Can you talk about, in my opinion, it has done a great disservice to mankind to make it out like little d is omnipresent, and he's not.
Okay.
Little d
Okay.
is not omnipresent. You haven't mentioned him at all, right? Instead, you know the value of the Lord God Almighty, who is the only one who's omnipresent, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the
Mm-hmm.
damage that you have seen over the years in ministering to women, being involved in public relations, being involved in media, and all these other avenues, right? The disservice it's done through, I don't like this word, but I'm going to use it, religiosity, right? Through
Okay.
Christianity. In the devil seems to be around every rock. That's little d. Okay?
Okay.
But you instead, like, wait a minute, God's given me a mind, He's given me a brain. What do I need to do with this brain? So, what have you encountered over the years to see the damage that's done for everybody to think the devil's underneath everything?
I agree with that. And I, for me, where I did feel like the enemy was, where the devil was in my head. And I think that is I do think the enemy has a great way of going, let me give you this little self-doubt. Let me get this. And so I'm going to just start pulling you a little far, put a wedge between you and God if I can. That's where I felt it was. On the flip side of that, I have such an ego that I was like, man, God must really like me, because the devil really is messing with me right now. I'm one of God's favorites. Yeah, I got this. But so I don't even know if I'm answering your question, because I went off on a tangent.
No,
So I'm
no, no,
not
you
even
didn't.
sure.
Nope,
Yeah.
nope, nope. You
Okay.
did not go off on a tangent, right?
Okay.
Because you basically shared with the world that you were tossing through the storms of life. You were getting knocked to and fro. It didn't seem like you had a chance to come up to breathe, right? Because you were getting
Right.
knocked. You were Bob in the literal sense, right? You were out there
Mm-hmm.
in the waves and bobbing, and you couldn't catch your breath, right? You couldn't catch your breath.
Absolutely.
Okay, so when you were thinking about this interview, okay, we already shared the difficult things. I want you to highlight some of the turnaround moments where you were like, you're sitting in the midst of something, and you're like looking around, and you're like, oh my gosh, Art, I can't believe what you have done.
Yeah. Yes. So I was in a like I said, not a great relationship all of that. And I, for 3.5 years, was like, I had no desire. I'm to get into a relationship. And finally, a couple of my girlfriends were like, okay, that's not going to last long. You're going to get old, and so let's get you out there. And as only friends can be, right? And say, and my kids were, and I do love relationships. I do like being in a relationship, but I wasn't ready because I have a bad picker. That was what I said. I mean, I had the worst picker. And so finally I met a gentleman, and you talk about God's send. He is the kindest, most supportive, loving cheerleader. You do what you need to do. I will take care of this. We live in an incredible home, 32 acres out in Central Texas. And I've never been happier. And it's not because of all this. It's because for the first time in my life, I'm truly being authentically myself. And one of our favorite sayings is that we call it kick a brick. And what we mean by that is, if one of us, first of all, we give each other grace, because we would, and he says to me all the time, would never hurt you intentionally. If I say something and I didn't, I would never hurt you. But if I've said something or done something, or I do something that I don't realize I've done and I've hurt his feelings or something, in my past, I would never say anything. And I would let those bricks every time it happened and build up a wall. And so what we are, and we're coming on 10 years together. The minute if that happens, we go, oh, I need to kick a brick. And we speak about it right then, or say, is this what you meant?
Right.
Is that what you, no, what? Oh my God, is that what you thought I meant? No, it's not what I meant. So that way we have no bricks. There's no walls that are being built up. And I love that. It has made all the difference. Now, this is to all the ladies and gentlemen that have been hurt and have distrust that is running their lives. I was that person. So when I met this gentleman, I accused him of everything that my ex did. And I played the game of, I'll get you before you get me. So I was always kind of on the attack, and again, accusing him of things that he was not even thinking of doing. But because of distrust, I was doing that. And I was making sure I was keeping him at bay. And one day we were on the phone, and I was accusing him of something. I don't even remember. And it was that aha moment again. I went, oh my, what are you doing, LisaBeth? And I stopped myself and I said to him, I am so sorry. I'm looking at you through the cracked lenses of my past, and you had nothing to do with it. And that's not fair to you. And I realized then that there is no way I could build, or we could build a relationship, whether it was with him or anybody, if I kept accusing him and distrusting. And there's some point in time we have to open our arms and trust. And if they break it, they break it. But we can't have a good, strong relationship if we're constantly, putting our arms up. And then he still laughs about this. One of my favorite stories is during this period of accusing, we were both driving, and we were on the phone, and I was talking to him. And I was accusing him. I was saying something. I was being mean. I was whatever. And I caught myself, and I went, oh my gosh. I said, hang up. I need to call you back. And he goes, wait, what? I said, I need a do-over. Hang up. I'm going to call you back. And he was like, okay, crazy. You know what? Yeah. So I called him back, and he answered the phone. Hello. And I went, hi, how was your day? Like as nice as I could. And he just started laughing. He goes, you're crazy. And I said, no, I just needed a do-over, and I think sometimes we just need a do-over, just if you're in the middle of something and you're realizing what you're doing, just stop and say, oh, hold on, I am sorry, delete, let's do that again. And the other person will completely appreciate you're being real, you're being authentic. And that was my goal, was I in this relationship, am as being authentic and real as I can be. I'm being me. And
Yeah.
again, my theory is if he doesn't like it, then he's not my person. He's not my person then. And I want to be true to myself and be all that God wants me to be. Again,
Lisa,
I'm his favorite. Just saying.
yeah, you are you
No,
are
I'm
his
kidding.
you are his no. You are his favorite. You are his
We
favorite.
all,
We all are his favorite, right?
we're all his favorite. We
Yeah.
all say that. Yep.
So this is great because truly, right? When I was in a situation within the last we're just going to say year to remove anybody that could potentially be involved, okay? Within the last year.
Okay.
And over the years, we used to, when we didn't have the grandbabies, right? We used to go to the movies. We would get up on Christmas morning, we'd cook our big breakfast, we would take a nap, and then we'd go to the movies. This is something we did with our kids growing up, right? And my children would pick the clean, because I liked the clean movies, clean comedy to take their mom to. Because I am the woman in the crowd that laughs so loud, you're like either going to love me or hate me. Okay. And so they would take me to all these. So within the last year, there was a time in my life where I was being myself, which is filled with joy, right? Enjoying whatever moment it is right in front of me. And I've had snarly looks, I've had snarly comments, but then the Father spoke to me, "Oh, Sean, I love the sound of your voice. I love the sound of your laughter," right? And so if we take
I
you,
love that.
yeah, if we take you back to the beach, right? Or whatever moment it may be, right? Relationships or other people are just that. But when we singular when we are true to our relationship with the Lord, that is the thing that grounds us the most. That is the thing that strengthens us the most, right? So when you were thinking, right, what is something that you want to impart to give our viewers a step one? Okay, everybody learned kick a brick. Oh my gosh, I cannot wait to use that on my husband. I'm going to say kick a brick, and he's like, "What is that?" He's going to be like, "What is she talking about now?" Right?
What in the world?
Kick a brick, right? Go kick a brick. I'm going to go kick a brick.
It works.
Yeah.
It totally works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Because the minute David says it, I know, okay, I said something. Hold on. All right. So yes.
yeah. Yeah.
I love it.
And being filled with grace and humor and restart. Every day there's a restart. Every day there's a restart. I had asked my husband recently, I said, I call him Love, Love. I said, "Love, do you think about dying before you go to sleep?" He's like, "What are you talking about, Sean?" And I was like, "Do you ever think about dying right before you go to sleep?" He's like, "Well, no." I go, "What do you think about?" He goes, "Sean, I just go to sleep," right? And he goes, "Why do you think about that?" He goes, "Do you think about that?" I go, "Yes, I do. I think about it every day." But I think about it from the standpoint of looking back at my life, giving inventory of my life to see how the day went. Now, in my earlier years, it was you would hammer yourself because you had this list that you were to accomplish in a day that nobody could accomplish it. I mean, 100 women couldn't accomplish the list that I had in my mind, right? But being in that place of peace, right? So share with viewers how this is real. People can really walk in peace. Right? So if is it you got your neighbors. Not only can people walk in peace, but I guarantee you extended the peace of an overcomer when you went out to help love on your neighbors.
True.
Right?
True.
And it doesn't mean
Right.
you have to slap people and tell them, "No, you don't have time to fall apart," right? No. So okay, this is what I want you to impart to viewers: how to look through lenses of grace when somebody is going through something. Because just because you've overcame it, you don't need to go into somebody's life and snap your finger and get over it, right? How have you learned, through discovery program, right? How have you learned to help people in the process of trauma?
Right.
Yeah.
I think the first piece of advice, and you said it, is first of all, don't give advice because, or, how many times have somebody said, oh my God, that happened to me too. Exactly. No, it didn't happen exactly. It's not the same. Your story is different than my story. So I also believe in I do believe people need to mourn. That's one thing I gave myself some time, but then I said, that's enough.
Yeah.
That's enough. Because I think if we don't mourn and we shove it down, it's going to come out somewhere, somehow, probably not the way we want it to come out. So I gave myself time to cry. I gave myself time to be angry and hurt. And then I really just went, I'm done. I'm done. Again, I knew I would stay there. I would stay in that spot. And I didn't like who I was because I'm an outgoing, I'm light, I'm fun, I'm all these things. And I did not like who I was. I was a shadow of myself. So I would say first thing is let people share and let them share their experience. And what I do is I talked about being the trigger, as people are being triggered by that story.
Yeah.
A lot of times I remind people that it's not the person, but it's the behavior that has got them upset. So which would be a trap. This person has trapped me in this behavior. So again, it's going back to that trigger, taking that 3 to 5 seconds to really think through before you react. And so that's one thing I always share is before you say something you wish you didn't say, take 3 to 5 seconds, whether it's looking outside, whether it's looking at your phone because you have pictures of your kids on it, whether it's just praying, and a prayer could be, dear God, take them right now, whatever it is. But take that time. And, it's funny is that because I'm older than you, but Mom used to say, think before you speak or count to 10. And I don't think she knew why she was saying that, but it was really good advice.
Yeah. And I think even if memory serves me correct, Lincoln wrote many letters that were never sent. Literally, he wrote letters that were never sent. And sometimes just getting it out, right? If whatever that looks like, right? Without hurting yourself, without self-harm, I would say. But sometimes it's just getting it out, right? Or it's inserting a different sound. It could be music for someone, right? It could be Craftland for someone. Okay, how do you redirect where your mental mindset is in the moment, right? How can you redirect or put your energy somewhere else, right? Because nobody wants to age with wrinkle lines, right?
Right. And I think one of the best ways if you're upset, if you're going through a bad time, is serving.
Yeah.
When I was going through my stuff, and I didn't even think about it until just now, I had the opportunity to serve in Austin, the church under the bridge, which is homeless people. And it was interesting. I joke that I'm a germaphobe, but everybody says, no, you just don't like germs. I mean, I'm not crazy, like everything has to be clean, but I am like, if someone's sick and I know they're sick and they're coming to me, I'm like, no, I'm good, or employees, they would come in and go, no, it's allergies. Is it really allergies? Go home. You can work from home. Don't bring it here.
Yeah.
So for me to go to the church under the bridge and I didn't even think about the people and everybody else, it was interesting. Everybody else that was there were serving food, which was amazing, giving drinks, which was amazing. I just walked around and held hands and talked to people. And one gentleman, how did he put it? I don't remember what he said to me, but I do remember the end of it. He said, "You look us in the eye. You're talking to us and looking at us in the eyes." And I don't remember, the beginning was something very nice, and I don't remember what it was, but it dawned on me how lonely that must be, not to have somebody look you in the eye and talk. And so I think giving back and serving, especially if you're like my neighbors, homeless right now, and what can to remind yourself and give back.
That's right. So, Lisa, what with such wisdom, now let's transfer over to transition over to what is a recent project that you've been part of?
I know, I'm really excited. My very good friend Michelle Savage of Sula Publishing has incredible multi-author books. And for the longest time, it's like I was going to be in the first, and I was going to be in the second, and then and Pieces to Purpose. When that came up, when that title came up, I was like, that's the book I'm supposed to be in. Because, yes. And so it's 17 authors. It's women that stories like mine or different or completely different, but it's how when their lives were in pieces, turned that into making a difference, turned it into a purpose. And one of my favorite things is when I was at a workshop, I was at Discovery actually.
Okay.
And I'm going to come back to Pieces to Purpose, but when I was talking about my divorce and I was talking about this, well, then a gentleman next to me, had just tried killing himself or whatever that was. I remember the workshop leader, the facilitator, David Dashner, said, don't even compare yourself. Nobody in this room, do not compare yourself to anybody else's story. Your story is devastating to you because it's your story.
That's right.
And so as people read this book or you're thinking about your chapter that you want to write for your life, don't compare it to anybody else's and don't go, oh, well, a loss of a child or I'm losing my mom or I lost, whatever your story is.
Yeah.
Write that chapter because it is a really nice healing. Take the time and don't compare because it's devastating. Because you might read a chapter in the book and go, "Oh, that wasn't so bad." Well, did it happen to you? No, So, yeah, The stories are amazing. These women are amazing what they've gone through, and mine's just one story, and mine's called "Treasure on the Beach." My chapter.
Yes, I love it. Yeah, and now that you mentioned that Michelle is your good friend, let Michelle know that I reached out to her and asked her.
I will.
Could I interview her as well?
I will let her know.
Yeah, because think of it. Back in the day, there was all these different magazines, right? And there was different articles in the magazine. Is this not the same concept for books? This is wisdom. Right?
Yes.
Because then you get to hear the flavor of other voices, right? And it's like you get to step into somebody's life and you don't know, like what you said, right? You may read something in somebody's life, but if you compare their life to trauma that you yourself endured, that's not fair because trauma is trauma. I don't care what it looks like. Trauma is trauma. And you may use somebody else's story. You may run into somebody within the next week of your life after reading it and say, OMG, this would be so good for this person, right? So I'm a huge promoter of books, right? Back in the day, it was go to this certain store that has these certain letters associated with store, and everybody knew where the cards came from, right? Oh, no, get your friend a book, right? Collect up on the books, Pieces to Purpose, right? And so after, coming alongside of all these different authors, right? 17, that's a lot. That's beautiful, because these are bonds and relationships. So I did want to let our viewers know that underneath this YouTube video, you're going to see the word more. Okay. If you click on that word more, you will find out further ways and how you can get a hold of LisaBeth, how you can get a hold of LisaBeth, or there'll be a direct link there to purchase the book. Right? You still have time to send it out, right? That's a great thing about Amazon. Plug for Amazon. You still can, put in somebody's address and they just ship it right there, right? Oh, call it a present, right? They just ship it right there, gift receipts in there, the whole 9 yards, right? So Where do you want to take
Can I
us?
say one thing?
Yes, where do you want to
One
take
thing I
us?
wanted to share. Well, one of my favorite things is that there's several women that I know through Texas Women in Business and other networking organizations that wrote chapters in this book. And I had no idea. I had no idea the things that they had gone through. And so it was just really, it made me even feel closer because we see each other at networking events and we hug and how are you? And oh my, it's so good to see you. And now I know what they've gone through to get to where they are. And my admiration and respect is just like, oh my gosh. And again, we all have a story.
We do.
We all
We
have a
do.
story. Yeah.
We do. We do. And can you give that plug-in that everybody's his favorite too? For our viewers.
Everybody is his favorite. So it was, David gave me a birthday card, and in it he wrote, and you are one of God's favorites. And I read it and I just looked at him and he goes, I know I screwed up. You're his favorite. I know. I'm sorry. And then I always say, we are all his favorite. That's the beauty of it. We are all God's favorite. We got all the treasure on the beach. And we just forget about that sometimes. And knowing that we're his masterpiece, that he adores us and loves us and only wants the most incredible things for us. It's just life gets in our way. We get in our way. And we have an opportunity of such an incredible life. And
We do.
We do. And it's just letting go and letting God, as simple as that is.
It is.
Letting go and letting God.
So I would like our viewers to go through an activation here. Everybody hold up your right hand for a second, okay? And then take your right hand and touch yourself. And say out loud, I am the Lord's favorite.
I am the Lord's favorite.
And say it until you feel it. Right? Look at yourself in the mirror every day and say, I am the Lord's favorite. I'm his favorite. Right?
I'm his favorite.
Until you believe it. Because because of being knocked around, rolled down a hill, tossed in a commercial, washing machine and dryer, sometimes you don't feel it. So sometimes you need to speak those words out loud until you come into agreement with it. I am the Lord's favorite.
I am the Lord's favorite. And I remind myself of if I'm having a bad day, or, if you look outside, like right now in Central Texas, it's drizzly, it's cloudy, it's rainy, but I know the sun's shining. The sun is shining up there. There's just clouds in front of it. And so I think of that as the Lord too. It's always there. It's just, there's some clouds, but it's still there. It's still there.
That's right.
Yeah.
I just want to thank you, LisaBeth, for your nuggets of wisdom, for your treasures on the beach. I want to thank you for allowing yourself to be put in vulnerable positions, to allow yourself to be trained so that you could be a coach in areas of helping others to overcome traumas and making awareness for the tragedy associated with things that should never, ever be done to children.
Never.
So thank you for your work. Thank you for, the only thing I know about Texas is a song we used to sing in the choir, Deep Down in the Heart of Texas.
Where are you located?
Portland, Oregon.
Oh, that's right. You're Pacific Coast. Okay.
Yeah.
I love Portland. What a beautiful place.
It's God's country. It is. Because we've got the trees and the hills, and Portland is great because it's in between California and Washington. But it's great because if it's cloudy, it rains. Other than that, it's clear. I grew up in Seattle, and you had clouds 10 months out of the year, like literally, right? So you learned to have a good day regardless of the weather. You did.
That's right.
Because you had to make that choice, right? But it's beautiful over here. But thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
What a delight. And again, viewers, pieces to purpose, right? The link's going to be right below this YouTube video. You'll literally just be able to click it. It'll take you right to Amazon, and you could put in somebody's address and send it as a gift.
You can. And the other thing is that you'll be able to see who the publisher is, which is Michelle Savage, and go to her website because she's already got 4 or 5 multi-author books that are coming up that for off, so if you've got a story, look at what she's got coming up, because you may have a chapter that you say, it's time that I get this out and into the world and share it. And so you may be able to fit into one of those books. It's definitely worth it.
That's right.
It's a great
Yay,
process.
Michelle.
And they make it, and she makes it so easy and fun. So,
good.
It's great.
So good.
Yes.
Thank you again.
Thank
you
you
so much. And I just want to tell all of our viewers, thank you for coming to this episode of Sagionic 1027. And until our next broadcast and our next guest, may the Lord bless you. May the Lord keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon thee always. Blessings. Bye.